Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some stuff that is very relevant to BFA, and that is environmental awareness. I had a particularly bad raid last night. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. It happens to the best of us, where I died a couple of times, and it immediately spawned memes, and I was angry. I was fucking so angry at myself. I often feel like, because I make guides, that you got a sort of responsibility to do well, and it's never nice to let your team down, but last night was my night. And also, some people have asked me about this, because in BFA, there has been a shift. Class complexity, let's call it, has been simplified yet again. For like the third expansion in a row, they've kind of compressed the classes down to make them simpler for people. They're finding a lot of players, or we're assuming, because communication isn't the best right now, that players who join the game or have been around with the game for a while are just overwhelmed by the amount of buttons, the amount of interactions and stuff like that that classes have, and they find themselves just smashing their face on the keyboard. And we see evidence of that if we go into queuable content. Any form of queuable content, and you'll find people who are like 350, 360 in current games item level, who are doing like 4k DPS, 3k DPS, something along those lines, and you're like, I don't understand how this is possible. Like, if you're a seasoned player of reasonable experience, you'll be like, how are you doing? Like, how is a Frost DK, for example? I'm just checking a log. I just recorded some LFI. I'm looking at the log for Mithrax, and we've got a Frost DK who had 98% activity, didn't die, and did 3.9k DPS. Above that, we've got Ret Paladins with 5k, Arms Warriors with 6k, Fury Warriors with 6.3k, Warlocks with 6k, the Hunters with 6.7k, and so on and so forth. And that's incredibly low. It's an incredibly low amount of damage. So what's happening here? Well, often, and this is what I'm leading to with the two best tips I can give you to cope with environmental awareness, people are obsessed with looking at their buttons, but they're still not quite sure what they should be pressing in what order or lining things up and things like that. And it causes a lot of issues. So the first big tip I can tell you, and it seems obvious, but I think it's been lost over time, is your UI is a big deal. Many people copy UIs, download UIs from their favorite streamer, from their favorite YouTuber. It doesn't matter. Some people have got my UI and so on and so forth. But what we have is people installing UIs, but not really understanding why these guys are setting up their UIs in this way. And what you'll find is, in nearly all cases, there are a couple of exceptions. Most raiders or players at high-end content do something very, very similar. They might have all their abilities and stuff at the bottom of the screen, which you would have with a standard UI, yet they have the same spells in a lot of cases in the middle of their screen using something like Weak Auras or Tell Me When or something like that. And you might install this and you'd be like, oh, okay, now I have this. But what is it doing for me? Why is it like this? Why do raiders and these top-end players set their UIs up in this manner? And it's all really to do with environmental awareness. What they're doing is they shift their most important things to the middle of their screen because they want their eye line to be in the middle of the screen. What they don't want is their eye line at the bottom of the screen. You don't want that. Now, this is why Blizzard's standard UI is absolutely the worst shit ever created. It's awful. If you think about it, your abilities are right at the bottom of the screen. Your health and your target's health and spellcast bars and things like that are up in the top left. Your buffs and debuffs, which might cause you to die, are up in the top right. Nothing of real importance, which is what you'll be looking at, such as your spells or abilities. Am I debuffed? What health do I have? All this information is constantly taking you to the top left of your screen, the top right of your screen, the bottom of your screen, and you're just kind of glossing over the middle of the screen, which is where all this environmental stuff is happening. So what you have is raiders, such as myself, design their UIs so that they can constantly be looking at the middle of their screen, because that's what's going to kill you. That's what's going to cause you problems. And then they have their important information, like cooldowns and things like that, pop up in the middle so they don't have to go and look around for it. And this allows them, and allows players like myself, to function at a high level while dealing with very complex environmental scenarios, because I don't need to be looking elsewhere to manage these things. And this is why we have UIs that way. That's the purpose of them. That's their function. We're always trying to bring our eyes to our characters, because this is where things are happening. Now, fixing your UI or understanding that that's why you have that UI is really important, because you might say environmental awareness. Are you talking about dying in fire? Yes, but not just that. If I was to test people on this and say, right, don't get hit by the lasers in Mother. Don't get hit by this thing. And I set you as doing that goal, you would do that easily because that would be your focus. But as you move up to certainly higher and more difficult content where people start to fall down and start to fail, you also need to be able to perform at your maximum potential while simultaneously coping with these things. And that's where the difficulty is. That's where the trick is. If you're like, oh my god, I mustn't die to this thing, then you're probably going to avoid that thing. But in most cases, your DPS, your healing, your tanking, all these things are going to drop away as a result of you being so focused on one thing. So configuring your eye so you can easily manage your abilities and cooldowns while focusing on these environmental things, because you have a very obvious pop-up. You can see on my Moonkin, I have something that just tells me your dots are running out, refresh it. And I have those things then disappear, which I think is crucially important. Once I deal with it, it just disappears. I don't need to worry about it. And I can be safe in the knowledge my dots are on the target, right? And I have very simple notifiers of what my character can do while I'm focusing on everything else. So I can use like 10% of my brain on actually playing and DPSing, and the other 90% trying to make sure we're dealing with the fight in some manner and watching what else is going on. If you start looking at it that way and understanding your UI or set your UI up that way, you're definitely going to have a better time. The second one seems rather obvious, but it's something people never do for some reason. The vast majority of the player base never do this, and that is know what you're doing before it happens, right? Know how to deal with the scenario. If we look at this I-beam, you can see I react to it almost instantaneously. Now, some people will see that and they'll go, whoa, that guy was really quick off the mark. That was really cool. Not really. I knew it was coming. One, we had a boss timer. It says I-beam's coming soon. It might be on me. Okay, so I've got like 10 seconds to prepare for this thing, right? And then I can look around the room. All right, I've got 10 seconds. What if I-beam's on me? Where's good to go? How would I get there? Well, I'm a warrior on this. I'm on my warrior, so I can heroic leap somewhere. Where should I leap to? Where's safe? Over there. Okay. And that's it. I've got that in my head. I already know exactly, should I-beam pop up on me, that's where I'm going to go. And it's as simple as that. And it looks like super fast. It looks like, oh my god, what a reaction. Boom, he's gone. But in actuality, it's very, very simple. But knowing what's coming and being ready to deal with it beforehand, like 10 seconds beforehand, nothing's ever a surprise. It makes you super relaxed. And I know some people get very stressed out with dealing with so many things going on. And I know when I show people like Mythic Gahoon with orbs going everywhere and the floors exploding and all this kind of stuff, it's like, oh my god, there's so much going on there. How do you deal with it? Well, the fact of the matter is I know these things are going to happen. I know these things are going to happen. I'm ready for them, and I know how to deal with each of them. There's a wave coming in 10 seconds. I don't want to stand near anybody. I need to move over here. I need to move over there. These are the two biggest tips that are going to move your gameplay forward so far. And they seem stupidly obvious. Don't get me wrong. I'm aware of that. But you see that so many players don't implement it this way. They're very stressed out. And both of these tips work hand in hand. Because I don't need to be focusing heavily on my class abilities, I have more time to assess things like boss timers, right? I have more time to prepare for things because I'm not worried about my class abilities and DPS and cooldowns because I have that in a nice, easy system that I've set up for myself. And therefore, that plays into being ready for other things. I know when I've got stuff ready, therefore I don't need to worry about it. Now I can look at everything else. What's happening next? What can I get ready for? When are the ads spawning? And you see me, certainly if you've watched the stream, I'll often say things when I'm trying to verbalize what I'm doing is, okay, we've got ads coming. When are they? 40 seconds. When's Bladestorm ready? Oh, okay. And you're having these thought processes which are just making your life so much easier. And at the same time, you're saying, oh, I'm doing Mother. When's Fire? Okay. When are the wins? Where do I want to be for wins? And I'm thinking about all these things because I'm not thinking about what I'm going to be doing. And now I'm focusing on what to do when other things happen. And if you implement these two things and try and play this way, and you can do this in LFR as well, you'll definitely see a massive shift in, one, your DPS will go up because you're frankly being able to perform as best you can while all these crazy things are going on, and you'll die way, way less. And I hope that you don't end up having a terrible raid like I did. But it does happen. It does happen. It sucks. Suck it up. Get back on the horse and be okay. Otherwise, people instantaneously make memes about you. Thank you very much. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.